Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lessons from Leaders podcast. I'm very excited for today's episode. Today, we have Liz Bridges on, who is the founder of Washed Up, which is a social utility app to get the world back into real life. So she has spent a lot of her life traveling the world, building all kinds of different experiences that has shaped the way she thinks as an entrepreneur. So, Liz, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. And I really want to start with what I feel like is such a formative thing for you, which was travel. Like you spent, and I'm going to let you dive into it, but you spent time in all different parts of the world, trying all different kinds of things. So I would love to hear from your point of view how that shaped you and how that shapes how you think as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So relating it directly into Washtap, the travel was such an important experience for 12 years of my life. And as many people know, when you travel, everyone wants to speak to you, and you want to speak to everyone. There's a different energy when you're traveling around. People say, "Oh, why are you here? What are you up to?" And I realized coming back into cities to live, that was gone. No one wanted to speak to you. And I naively just couldn't figure out why, because I want to talk to everyone. I want everyone to communicate. So a big, big part of Washed Up is bringing that travel essence, the travel energy into cities where we really need it. Like say hi to a stranger, experience something with someone new. Will they be your best friend? I don't know. Who knows? But to ask people, what they're up to, and for us to remember that humans are not all bad.
Yeah.
So,
So for
yeah.
you, it
So,
was like when you were out, you felt like everything was more open. People wanted to know what you were up to, wanted to know what you were doing in the country and, abroad. So you felt like that was a little lost, like coming back after COVID?
oh, 100%. I mean, I think I lived in Sri Lanka for the past 5 years and I started a hotel bar and restaurant there. And I've been out of the States now for 12 years. And most places I go, everyone is really, for lack of a better word, hospitable. And you'd be sitting at a restaurant by yourself. And if you see someone else by yourself, it's kind of like, and you start up a conversation because why not? Unless, I think that there's a certain demeanor when you could tell when someone wants to be by themselves. But for the most part, having a 15-minute chat with someone else that's on their own can actually make your day or their day.
And why do you feel like that's lost in the US and it's not as popular?
I wouldn't almost say it's just the US. I would say it's cities because it's big cities. It's because it's so hustle and bustle. But also, COVID has affected a lot, as I think we all know. And that's part of the reason why I called it Washed Up, because, you all wash up in a different part of life and maybe your friends groups has changed. We're all in therapy now. So it's like we have boundaries for certain things and we're trying to develop ourselves in certain ways. And a lot of that came after COVID. So we're kind of in a rebrand, right? And rebrand, I believe, means being open to people. And when you're going to work every day, you get into such a routine, and not necessarily to break the routine, but just to say, what if you went 5 minutes out of your way and did something else to meet someone so we could all talk again, is kind of getting into that. So I would say it's not the States, it is big cities. I would all over the world.
Mm, right, right. And I mean, I can attest. I'm from small town Alabama. And now, coming to Miami, you get a little bit of that. It's lost because you have that very tight knit community. You kind of talk to everybody. Everyone compliments you when you're out. It's a little different. Was that what it was like when you were, I guess, building your career in Sri Lanka? Because that was a very formative time period. Was that kind of what it was like building your community over there?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always wanted to bring the energy to invite everyone in. Meaning and this has been my whole life. If I see someone, sitting by themselves, I always say, "Hey, come on over, hang out with us," because I think it's lost that to realize, yeah, we all know that everyone's going through something. And sometimes it can take someone a lot to go out by themselves. And they are trying to meet people, they're trying to integrate. And without us helping people integrate that want to integrate, even though we're set in our ways, we can help a lot of people in so many different aspects. And that's the type of community that I wanted to bring to my place in Sri Lanka, which was called Funky Soul. And I wanted everyone to feel included. And that's what I want to bring with Washed Up, but to the world. You can go somewhere and share an activity that you want to go to because we empower being alone. And I completely agree. I've been doing it for 12 years. I'm Miss Independent, but sometimes I feel with everything the world has brought us in this era, why do we have to if we don't want to? Like a comedy
Mm.
show is so much more pleasant when you're sitting next to someone laughing, no matter who they are. So I think my whole life, including Sri Lanka, I was trying to create that energy. And now I just get to do it on a global scale instead of on a beach in Sri Lanka and starting here in LA.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you do all this travel, you're trying all these different things, you run these different operations in Sri Lanka, and you're gathering all these experiences. And, we've talked separately about this, but it was kind of all driven by your purpose of bringing people together and wanting to connect people. So, can you talk a little bit about that and when you realized that was your purpose? Because I feel like it's such a, everybody's
Yeah.
looking for that, right? Everybody's looking for the purpose. So for you, what was that like when you had that realization?
It was nuts. And it was recently. And I'm turning 36 actually tomorrow. So just want to throw that
Oh,
out there.
wow.
It's like,
There
I
we
just,
go.
yeah. So I just want to say like, it's not, and I don't feel that it should have happened before either. And it was October of 2025. And it was like, it all came up from behind me when I had, it was when I had the idea for Washed Up, and it was kind of within that entire week. And it was the realization, like all the wires started connecting that I've had about 15 different jobs all over the world, but every single one had to do with bringing people together. And I realized how hard it was with the tools that we have and with the idea with Washed Up. And a big way of how I feel that I discovered it, I think that there's different ways depending on what people's purpose is, which I think is fascinating that everyone has such a different one. But I just started doing stuff that I loved because I was in a very low place when I had the idea with Washed Up. So I got to Lisbon. I was having almost an identity crisis. I'd traveled for, 12 years and I decided I had to leave. There was no more growth with where I was. And I was in a bit of a hole and I didn't know what was going to happen. I just picked Lisbon because it seemed like city light and it was different than where I'd been. And that was the only reasoning. And I got there and I was really just felt destroyed. And I slowly started just doing little things I love, like going to walk on the lake, like by myself. I was most of this was by myself. Surprise. And then pottery classes. And through this period, I'd go to these big meetups with huge amounts of people to try to meet people because I'm very social. And I got overwhelmed because of the place that I was in. You go and I would meet great people, but I would never speak to them again. It was literally a
Mm,
gathering to meet people. And I, love trivia nights or, pub quiz nights is what it was in Lisbon. And like weird things like escape rooms. Both of these activities are better with lots of people. And
yeah.
when you go to these meetups sometimes and you put yourself in these boxes to meet people in a certain instance, sometimes you can't find those people for those small things that you love. So I think that doing stuff that I loved is kind of what helped me put the wires together. And it was like, it came up from behind me and it felt amazing to be like, I truly feel that this is why I'm here is to bring people together in the best way I can. So the app right now is the vehicle, and if that changes, like if the roads change to bring people together to create that community for people to meet in real life, so will this.
Hmm. Yeah. And we're the storytellers. We run, social media, do all this stuff. So to me it's like the story is just so good because you spent all of your time traveling around, being in these different communities, and then realizing, you're the connector. You like building these communities, and now you have a vehicle, like you said, to do it. And what I really want to get into also is getting this thing off the ground because you've got thousands of users now that are getting value from an app that you built, one person doing all this.
Yeah.
So for you, I would love to hear what it was like learning how to code, getting something off the ground, and then getting thousands of users to start to build their own communities. Like what has that been like? What was the early stages like?
It was, it's all crazy. I do feel I have ADHD, and I feel that when I was in Lisbon, I was lucky enough. It's, timing, situation, a bit of luck, and keep going. And I was in Lisbon at the same time as something called Website, which is the largest tech summit in the world. Meanwhile, I just had, sold a hotel, bar, and restaurant in Sri Lanka. After I had this idea, I ended up with a woman, and I hadn't started any. I had an idea and heaps of optimism. And I ended up with a woman in tech lanyard that I got for, 80 euros because I met a girl who knew a girl who's like, I think your idea is great. Let me try to help you get this ticket. So I'm wandering around this 80,000 person tech conference. Hilarious. And I just start very passionately telling people how I want to change the world and connect everyone in real life. And looking back now, it's funny because I'm sure I sounded crazy. I, was so set that this was going to work. And I knew it was going to work. I didn't know really how to implement it at this time. And I had just, again, owned a hotel, bar, and restaurant, trying to tell these investors and trying to get someone to be my co-founder that I had enough credentials, even though I used to be a yoga teacher in Nicaragua, to start a tech company. So that was
Yeah.
funny. That didn't work. So I tried to work with about 4 different developers, tried to get co-founders, and it was a very frustrating process. And so then it became, screw it, I'm going to do it by myself. And this was end of November. I made this decision. And I started teaching myself to code in December. And this was very funny. And I think I had my head, you learn through failure. And the
Hmm.
faster you fail at certain things and pick the wrong system, the faster you'll get to the right one. Right. So I used a no code backend. I was using ChatGPT to figure out what to use. And then I was trying to connect it to a front end, which was the worst 10 days of my life. And then I finally said, screw it, after I had the whole database built. So the whole idea I had no coded into a database with the API endpoints, et cetera, et cetera. And then through my frustration with not being able to connect that, I basically dumped it into Lovable Purse, which is a web app developer. And I was very stubborn, set on a downloadable app at first. And I now look back thinking the web app is a part of the reason that might have saved business to start anyway, which is a good
Mm.
point. So as soon as I dumped it in Lovable, because I had everything built, mind you, so I don't want to falsify this. So it took me about 5 weeks to build the no code backend, learn that. And then when I couldn't connect it to the front end, I dumped it in Lovable, and that I launched from there about 3 days, 2 days later. And the
Mm.
reason I launched is because I wanted to go to a comedy show. And I was on the phone with a friend, and they said, I really wanted to go because the lineup at the comedy store here in LA was awesome. And of course, I was on the phone with my friend, be like, I don't have anyone to go with. Comedy shows are miserable if you go by yourself. I've never been to one by myself. And then they were like, I think that there's an app for that. And I was like, it's a good point. So I launched that day by posting the link on Facebook groups, Reddit. Um, that was the main ones. And no one came. It was 4 hours later, but I troubleshot the app. Like I had the structure was completely different than it was before the next week. So I had like a big gender lock for women's safety. That was 5 people for the group of mixed gender. And then I was like, I would have gone with anyone. to that comedy show. And I realized that because
Mm-hmm.
I was really big with making sure that women feel safe. I still am. But there's differences when you're in big public places. And sometimes you really just want someone to join you. So
Mm-hmm.
after that, it started showing interest just based on that lane. And I kind of somersaulted my way through then learning that tech has bugs. And that was an interesting experience of me being glued on my computer, figuring that out. And the biggest thing after I just charged, so from the beginning, I think from the answer to your question, it's almost like you have blinders on, I think, at this point in time, and like a horse, and you just go. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know. You don't look from side to side. You don't listen to anything else. You're building. And then as soon as I launched, it was like people. And the furthest I got, I tried these different ways. Like, you always try, like, there's this cool new app, and then that didn't work. And then I think after a couple of days, the furthest I got was just being completely authentic and just saying, hey, this is a brand new app. Here's what it does. You can find people to go with anywhere you want in LA. I just finished developing it. Is anyone want to try it? And it was like, boom. And that is when I coded, and that's when I moved off of Lovable. I extracted everything off, and then I started coding it myself with, I used Claude Code, and I'm on Next.js for the website. And then for tech people out there, I use Next.js for the website, and then React
Yeah.
Native with Expo for the Apple Store app and the Android app.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind hearing like you figured all this out, you did it all yourself. And also, you know, getting that many users and continuing to build it, like what was it like as you started developing? Were you just going to all your friends? Because it's a very, almost anybody could use this. Were you going to your friends and saying, if you use this, what would you want? How would you want to download this? Like what was the feedback system like for you as you started?
So I don't have a base here. So there's not one person that I knew that got on that app. I a Bumble BFF was a good place to start, where I was just talking to people, asking them if they wanted to go, because Bumble BFF, if you think about the user pool on that, they're literally looking for people anyway. But Bumble BFF is actually a lot of chat, which I just wanted to cut past. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just, I just didn't want that for what I was creating. And I went to one of the first things with a lot of people was a girls' brunch. And I just, I think a big thing is that, I really care. And I'm not trying to just make a bunch of money off of this. I'm trying to get people to connect in real life. I'm trying to, and I do think that in business, like in anything, when you're trying to launch, that comes off. And I would legitimately ask these women, and I've been to 56 of these plans, and I would just talk and I'd say, like, I'm one brain. I'm very aware of that. It's crazy one, but I can't or won't think of anything. And I've had so much good feedback of stuff where I was like, I wouldn't have thought of that at all. And I do it. I say, here's what, you can do now. And it's just stuff because you have those blinders on when you're building. A lot of the time as a founder, you're fixing these problems and you can't see an easier solution to make that particular problem that you're fixing better. If that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I was very scrappy in the sense where I was going to these all the time. I wanted to go, and I would just talk to everybody there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, what's the right word? It's just a lot of hustle. And you can see it and you're so passionate about it. Like you want to go out,
Yeah.
you want to have these conversations, you want to grow the brand, to make sure people are happy. So,
Yeah. I think a lot of community apps or type, that's what I wasn't gonna say. A lot of, things such as this, it has the wrong heart to begin, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but when you throw a bunch of money at something and you're trying to create ads and go everywhere. It's really not how you build a community. And it takes the right execution to be like, how can I make your life better with what I'm creating? And, about, I'd say maybe 2 months after, or maybe 3 months after launch, I was invited into a WhatsApp group with about 50 people late. I was invited late and that all met on the app. And, we had a get together for a couple people that were on the app since the beginning. And there was about 50 people there that had all met on the app as well. And I just stood in a corner and cried because, it is a lot of hustle. But I think and I think ADHD is a thing as well, but like when you have these blinders and your head is down and you're just doing it, sometimes you forget to look up and see what you've done. And that's what I'm trying to do now. And I'm lucky enough to have someone that I just got on the tech that's going to release me a lot because I've always known I'm not the one to scale it. I'm self-aware in that respect. It was more of a spiteful thing of me starting to build it by myself in the first place.
Yeah.
So I get to have the opportunity to really integrate in how I can make this the best for everyone.
Yeah. And, path forward, you've gotten, you've gained so much momentum. You've gotten this thing going. What do you see as the path forward of, scaling it and just pushing your mission even further? Like, what does that look like for you?
Super exciting. So right now we're working on a discovery piece, which is basically the first step is to empower community creators. There are so many people in every community that do things for absolutely nothing. Meaning, on Santa Monica Beach, there is a wonderful human that gets together about 75 people, brings, volleyball, the lines with the volleyball, and brings all these volleyballs, and it's free. And you just go and you play volleyball. And I feel like there's so many people in every single city that does this, and they're not acknowledged. And they take this tonight, for example. I'm going to a beach bonfire in Dockweiler Beach where a beautiful woman named Kristen, who has Sunset Club LA, she's planned this beach bonfire. She's, got marshmallows, she's got chocolate. We're all making s'mores, and it's free. You just show up because she wants people to watch the sunset with and have a bonfire with. And I want to use the platform as a discovery where you can join Kristen's community. You can join, Sam, the volleyball community. And so they can create their community, have full autonomy over how that looks, and they won't be charged for that. And then I'll be partnering with event organizers. So it'll be a complete discovery where the idea is like, if you don't know what to do, you can go inside the app as well, join communities, you can join bigger events, and then you can also find people to go with for all of that at the same time. And the next layer, then we're going to be scaling from city to city. And I do think that once we get the next 2 cities in the US, we'll be able to go nationally quite easily with a blueprint from here. And then the next set is actually going to be families, which is very close to my heart as well. So if you're a family and you want to go do something, like maybe go on a boat in Miami with a couple of your kids that are 6 and 7, it'll go through a verification process, and you'll be able to separate interface. So only families will be able to see. And you can find another family with kids of the same age to join you on that. And so I really want Washed Up to be a social utility that will be able to be global, meaning that if you want to meet people in real life anywhere you're going, and then this eventually will incorporate into travel. And you can meet, another family if you go to Greece, and then you have kids to play with your kids and you can talk to them before. And I really want to connect the world because I really believe that if we realize that all people aren't bad, if we all talk again, that we can actually make a difference in the world. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's amazing. I think about it in Miami. There's so many of these free groups that I've just found by walking up to people and saying, "What is this?" And, "Oh, we meet every this so often," but it's like, where could you even find out about this? So it's just ease of finding people, especially when they're moving to a new city. Like for me, I was new a year ago, And it did take me just walking up to these different groups and trying to find things. Whereas, you know, I wish there was a quick way to go find these.
Yeah. And
But yeah.
also, like, that takes a lot of willpower. Like, for me, like, to have the courage to walk up to those groups, and that some people don't have that. A lot of people can, and that doesn't mean it's bad. It's different people. It's, you walk, like, you have the power to walk up to these groups, but a lot of people, you can walk by and, like, almost like a yearning, but you don't have that. You can't, you don't, you're not able to go and just talk to them. It's hard. So also what I want the app to do is for people that feel that way, you can find people to go with, because a pillar that I really abide by is that company brings confidence. If you arrive with somebody somewhere, even if you're not going to be your best friend, you will feel more powerful, like you're on your own 2 feet. And what I also say is that, if you arrive to, say, a big party or a community group with a couple people, maybe those couple people that you meet on the app, per se, won't be your best friend, but because they came with you, you're going to have more confidence to talk to that person over there that might be.
Hmm. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I'm excited to see it come to different cities, but
Yeah.
so we're going to be on the lookout. But
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it grow. I just want to make sure a big thing is maintaining the integrity of the community and make sure that everyone feels safe and going to activities. So it's not going to be slow. We're going to be very fast. There's someone on tech, but just to make sure that everything's, dot our I's, cross our T's. I don't want to just open it up for a free for all. It's like, when we come, it's intentional and it's done correctly instead of just going.
yeah, 100%. And one final question for you, because I feel like you've done this so well. I feel like so many people can take, lessons from this. But for you, I think about, the phrase, um, what is the phrase? Do things that don't scale. And I feel like you are boots on the ground, talking to everybody, just hustling. So for you building this out and you gathering feedback, working with people, what would you tell another founder who's, trying to get that momentum in terms of doing things that don't scale? What's been that, your go-to when getting this momentum?
I think this is, everyone says this, but, like, this is the fun bit, and I think you do have to remember that, or it's, you create this product. And sometimes I even think of, like, what's something silly that I can do? And what is the worst thing that could happen from that? And I think that that's a big thing for me. It's like, when you think about, but I do think, I will say, I have massive founder market fit, massive. So I, wanted to go to these things. Um, I wanted to figure out how I could better people's lives with what I was creating, legitimate. And the only
Hmm.
way to do that is to talk to other people, because, again, everyone is different. People that are way more introverted than I will need inherently different things than I would. And I think just, yeah, be open, I think, and don't, I think when people give constructive criticism or give feedback, is not to take anything personally, but you have to be feet on the ground. I don't think, especially, I'm in real life social. So it is hard. There's different industries, but I think when you ask for feedback, you have to be actually asking for feedback. You can't just want to hear the good stuff. You have to actually
Hmm.
listen and then take that on. And then I think a big thing for me that I'm learning is priorities. People tell me a lot of things and they are great ideas, but I can't action them now. Like, potentially could be in the future, or they're not needed now and my focus is elsewhere. So I think learning to kind of do that. Um, and then, there's all this stuff with entrepreneurs. Like, if you get 100 people that love your product, I think a big thing, keep your goals so small that, like, when you're going up, that you're going to celebrate ridiculous stuff. Like, if you get 5 users that email you and tell you that something's wrong, that's a win because they're emailing you to tell you. They don't have to do that. Like, and that's actually, so you should see that as like, wow, these people really want it to work. Those are people to speak to. How can I make it better for you? You just, I think processing the information as it comes, but diving completely in, I think is another one. Like, I think when you're an entrepreneur and you're a founder and you really want something to work, you just got to just 2 feet and jump.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I love the point about finding the things to celebrate because I feel like so many times when you're building something, you have these high expectations. You have the ability to work a lot. So you're just never really thinking about it. But when you do take a step back, you're like, whoa, how far have we come? What have we done? Like, so I think that's amazing. It is
Yeah, like
amazing.
baby steps is what I was tell myself. I'm like, what is a small baby step that will make me smile today?
Yeah.
Like, like what is the smallest step that I can take to move forward? And sometimes it's not what you think, and sometimes you don't smile about it.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Well, good deal. Well, Liz, where can everybody find you? What can they be on the lookout for? Floor is
Yeah,
yours.
absolutely. So we have, if you download the app, if you're in the app right now is only in the United States App Store, but if you download the app, you can get onto the wait list as well. So we're taking city wait lists, and then we're going to go to the next city that is the highest on the wait list. There's also a link on the website for the wait list. Just double checking that in my head. So that's if you're outside of LA, that's going to be the next standing point, and it's just www.washedup.app. Right now it's just in LA, but now that there's someone on the tech that is not me, it will move hopefully way more rapidly than I actually can foresee possible. So it's very exciting. And there's on Instagram is at washedup.app.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I already know, some folks I'm going to send this to who are getting their apps off the ground and, building themselves. So really
Yeah,
appreciate you taking the time. And I know people are going to get a lot of value from this.
absolutely. And I'm very happy to connect with people as well that have questions because I know what it's like. And when you're building something, it's extremely lonely. There's so many different industries, but I I love just chatting to people. And whenever I say I talk to people about advice, I can't necessarily foresee what the best thing is, but I can tell you what didn't work to move from
Mhm.
there. It's usually useful information.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Liz, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. This was lovely.